Part 63. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 621. With his weapons ready, Suliang walked directly out of the border gate and walked towards the foreign passage. Soon. From a distance, Suliang had already seen the hundreds of foreign tribes stationed outside the foreign passage. And the moment I saw Suliang, "It's that human boy." There were hundreds of people from foreign lands shouting in horror. Countless attacks against Suliang failed, and Suliang killed countless foreign tribes. Now, for these foreign tribes who are obsessed with fighting and fearless of death, Suliang is like a nightmare. Even just mentioning this name will make them tremble uncontrollably. Not to mention facing Suliang head-on. Why is he here? The guard guarding this place looked at Suliang slowly coming from a distance in disbelief. Does it mean that he still wants to fight us with his own strength? Is he crazy? Who gave him the courage? He is indeed very powerful, but here we have almost an entire world as a backup. And just when these foreign tribes were still puzzled, Suliang has already launched a charge against these foreign tribes. With his body and mind flickering, Suliang appeared in front of these people from hundreds of foreign races in the blink of an eye. Immediately, one sword after another, one after another, under the sword light that filled the sky, countless of these foreign tribes were killed by Suliang before they had time to resist. Moment. Outside the foreign passage, there was blood and oars, and screams continued, just like purgatory. Less than a moment. In front of Suliang. There are not many of these foreign tribes left guarding the border. "Human, you are seeking death." The guard gritted his teeth and faced Suliang, but the hands holding the sword couldn't stop trembling. Even he would feel scared when facing the demon like Suliang. "This is a life and death relationship, why should I hold back on you?" Suliang glanced at the guard lightly and walked towards him slowly. "The Emperor will never let you go." The guard roared and rushed towards Suliang, but he still couldn't withstand Suliang's sword. Seeing the silence and emptiness around him, Suliang slowly walked into the foreign passage, leaving only a whisper that echoed, "I'm waiting for him to come to me." The Emperor of the Abyss, kill him, and all this should be over. In the Abyss, countless foreign tribes gathered at the entrance of the passage, waiting in full formation. They have received news from this world. The strong human being who had hindered them at the border for a long time was actually going to plunge into the abyss. How dare he? This is an abyss. Our world has countless races, many kings, and even an emperor. He was just one person, how dare he come here alone? Although they were puzzled, after receiving the order, they could only guard here and wait for Suliang's arrival. He must be killed here. He must not be allowed to disturb the emperor. Been waiting for a long time. Just when all the foreign tribes thought that Suliang might have died outside and would never come again. The foreign passage in front of him fluctuated for a while, and then, a figure stepped out of it. It's Suliang. I didn't expect that abyss would be so enthusiastic and have so many people come to welcome me. Suliang chuckled lightly, held the long sword in front of him, and flicked his finger. As the sword screamed, the fine blood beads flying on it killed hundreds of foreign tribes in an instant. "If you don't want to die, don't stop me." Suliang suppressed his smile and said calmly to the hundreds of foreign tribes in front of him, "My goal is your emperor. And you alone can't stop me." To this, the king who was the leader didn't respond at all. "Kill." The king shouted angrily, "Kill this ignorant human being here, hanging outside the borders of mankind. Let them see, this is the fate of those who dare to be enemies with our abyss." The words fell. Countless foreign tribes roared and galloped towards Suliang. Like a wave, Suliang was completely submerged. But the next moment, a burst of sword energy like a complete circle suddenly appeared and spread out. All the foreign tribes within a few miles of Suliang were killed instantly. "I told you, don't stop me." Su Yang's expression was as cold as a sword. While his true energy was boiling, the sword energy in his hand was spitting out, "If you annoy me, I will really kill someone. How dare you say such nonsense when you're just a human being?" The king, who was the commander, sneered, "Give it all to me. If this human being breaks through our defense line, your majesty will blame you, but no one can bear it. Hear this." Volume 1 Chapter 548 Backstabbing from the Same Race. In the end, the emperor's majesty was greater than Su Yang's fear. Then, a group of foreign tribes came towards Su Yang again. "Well." Su Yang sighed and walked forward slowly, "In that case, don't blame me for being cruel." Just as Su Yang entered the abyss, this news has also spread throughout the world. After all, he guarded the border alone for 3 years, repelling attacks from hundreds of foreign tribes again and again. It is really incredible that Su Yang accomplished such an achievement as a mere teenager. Normally, there were countless people watching Su Yang's every move. Did he go into the abyss alone? After hearing the news, Yuji looked into the direction of the abyss and remained silent. No matter what he did, he would only do it with absolute certainty. And this time, it should be the same, right? She was still waiting for him at home. How could he abandon her alone and go die? So, he will definitely come back. I will definitely come back and finish what I failed to finish that night. The girl has absolute confidence in her husband. And at the same time, from the present world, many families almost tried their best to support Su Yang, and led all the masters of the family except those younger geniuses to the direction of the abyss. Nature. These people are welcomed and supported by many people. But there were very few people who followed them. In the abyss, Su Yang was walking leisurely on the road going deep into the abyss. Those who blocked him at the entrance of the abyss had been pushed back by Su Yang. After fighting for a moment, they were defeated and fled in panic. Su Yang naturally stopped delaying and went straight to the depths of the abyss to meet the Abyss Emperor. He alone may not be able to destroy the entire abyss, and he doesn't want to do that. But he can still kill an Abyss Emperor. And on this journey forward, at the beginning, hundreds of tribes from foreign lands appeared to block it. But at the end, Su Yang's journey was smooth, and no one appeared to stop him. "I'm afraid it's the Emperor's order, right?" Su Yang looked far away in the direction of the Abyss Imperial City. "Let yourself go all the way to the depths of the abyss. Do you want to surround yourself here? Ridiculous." Shaking his head and smiling, Su Yang came outside the Imperial City and slashed on the city wall with his sword. Immediately, that cold voice almost enveloped the entire abyss. "Emperor of the Abyss, come out to see me." The words just fell. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 622. Then a figure flew out from the Imperial City and stood in front of Su Yang. His expression was indifferent, majestic, and domineering. As soon as he appeared, the aura-like abyss and prison shrouded Su Yang, making people feel like they couldn't breathe. Even Su Yang looked more serious. As expected, he is worthy of being the Emperor of the Abyss, and he is indeed not an easy person. It is indeed difficult to deal with. But then, Su Yang's expression became determined. For her, for the sake of the present world, today, he must kill the so-called Emperor of the Abyss before his eyes. This Emperor, Tianyu Guming, is the Emperor who rules the Abyss. Tianyu Guming's voice was cold. "Humph, you're just a human being and you dare to go deep into my abyss. Where do you get the confidence? It's just strength." Su Yang slowly pulled out the long sword from his waist and shouted to Tianyu from a distance, "For the sake of this world, can you die here today? If you want to kill me, you are not worthy." Tianyu Guming waved his hand. Moment. Countless foreign races surged in from all directions and instantly surrounded Su Yang. he was under siege from hundreds of tribes in a foreign land. Suliang was like a small boat in a hurricane, lonely, helpless, and incomparably small. However, in this regard, Suliang didn't feel any fear at all. "You want to use this to surround me?" Looking at everything around him calmly, Suliang shook his head. "It's not enough. Since I dare to come, I am naturally prepared." "Oh." Tianyaguming raised his eyebrows. "Now that things have happened, do you still have any other tricks?" "I don't have any means, but I know that as long as I kill you, everything will be over." He glanced at Tianyaguming lightly. Next moment, Suliang's figure suddenly disappeared, and right behind him, he appeared in front of Tianyaguming. A sword slashed towards Tianyaguming, and the bright sword light suddenly erupted so fast that even Tianyaguming could not react. It wasn't until the moment when the sword energy came upon him that Tianyaguming could barely avoid it. Looking down at his torn clothes with a frown, Tianyaguming's face was filled with anger. "Very good, human, you have successfully aroused my anger." Suliang had no intention of answering, but instead took out something. "Although I don't know what this thing is, since I got it, it can be regarded as my trophy." The moment he saw the thing in Suliang's hand, Tianyaguming's expression suddenly changed. "Proof of the Emperor? Damn it, give it to me quickly." "So this thing is called the Emperor's certificate?" Suliang nodded thoughtfully, but raised his sword. "If you want it, just take it back from me." "Damn it!" Tianyaguming gritted his teeth, his face immediately darkened. "Kill, surround, and kill this damn human being here." However, after the words fell, before the other hundreds of foreign tribes could take action, Suliang suddenly took action and appeared in front of Tianyaguming again. The sword was bright, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of swords struck Tianyaguming. However, when Suliang retreated again, he found that Tianyaguming did not leave any scars on his body. "Are you so thick-skinned?" Suliang raised his eyebrows, but then he shook his head nonchalantly. "It doesn't matter. If you can't cut through with one sword, just chop with a few more swords." Immediately, Suliang then raised his sword to fight again. And this time, the other foreign tribes finally reacted. Their expressions changed greatly, and they roared and charged towards Suliang. Damn humans, they suddenly took action against His Majesty. If His Majesty takes the blame, they will not end up well. However, facing their attacks, Suliang had no intention of caring about them. His target, from the very beginning, was above Tianyaguming. The two of them fought each other, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of moves were fired. The fight between two of the most powerful men in the world, even the residual power, is enough to make those king-level men die on the spot. For a while, it's impossible for anyone to get close to them. And just then, surrounded by hundreds of foreign tribes, several distinctive killing sounds suddenly appeared. Suliang took the time to look over, feeling a little surprised. He actually saw countless human beings rushing in from hundreds of foreign races. Faintly, he could still hear someone shouting in the distance, "General Su, I'll come to support you right away." Volume 1 Chapter 549, Degenerated into a Demon, Guarding Alone. Is this to support yourself? If that's the case, then help them. Without thinking much, Suliang stepped back and opened a passage for several people with a few sword rays. Finally met General Su. The leading old man came to Suliang excitedly and took Suliang's hand. "Thank you for your support. The battlefield is dangerous, so please be careful." Suliang only had a brief exchange before turning around to continue fighting Tianyaguming. But at this moment, a sharp blade penetrated Suliang's body from behind. Severe pain spread from behind. Suliang reacted immediately, turned around and slashed out with his sword, forcing the people behind him to retreat. Then he distanced himself and looked at the strong human beings in front of him with half vigilance and half confusion. Why? Why would they do something to themselves as humans? It is obvious that he entered the abyss because he wanted to end the disaster of the abyss. But even though I don't understand. But Suliang knew in his heart that these people in front of him were all enemies. He looked at Tianya Gumming, who was watching the show with a sneer in the back. Look at the formation in front of you, but most of the swords in your hands are pointed at your own people. Suliang asked in confusion, why? No reason. The leader had a smile on his face. Since you are against my emperor, you are our enemy. My emperor? Have these people actually betrayed this world and taken refuge in the abyss? But hundreds of tribes from the foreign lands of the abyss have slaughtered countless humans because they have a life and death feud with humans. Why do humans still seek refuge in the abyss? Aren't they afraid of death? That's when. As they came to support, one person said in confusion, what on earth is going on? Aren't we here to support General Su? Why do you want to attack General Su? Following this man's words, all the traitors turned their heads to him, with a dangerous light flashing in their eyes. See this. The man frowned and gathered with his equally ignorant companions, looking at them warily. You actually betrayed humanity and joined the abyss. With such arrogant ambitions, aren't you afraid of being scorned and hunted down by the world? No wonder, they had an unobstructed journey, and even when they entered the battlefield, they didn't suffer any losses. After all, they are the lackeys of the abyss, and of course the abyss will not take action against them. Don't be complacent. What happened today will be told to the world when we return to the world and expose your ugly face. Immediately. He then turned to look at the people behind him. Everyone, we will take General Su and run away separately. Someone must return to this world and tell the world what happened here. But the words just fell. There was actually a sword tip that penetrated through his chest, and there was blood on it. How could you? He used all his strength to turn his head and look behind him. That was his old friend of decades. Anyone who opposes my emperor will be guilty. The man said coldly, and slowly pulled out the long sword in his hand. So, please go die. Puff. A mouthful of blood spurted out, his body gradually became cold, and his consciousness gradually became blurred. All his vitality has been cut off. There is no hope of recovery. See this. Suliang couldn't bear it any longer, so he suddenly took action and appeared among everyone in an instant, killing the person who had just made a sneak attack with a sword. Let's go, everyone. Gently patting the backs of those who really came to support him, a gentle force instantly sent them dozens of miles away, leave the abyss and never come back again. Wishful thinking. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 623. Tianya Gumming's cold voice came. Immediately afterwards, Suliang felt a strong gust of wind burst out from behind him. Without thinking, he turned around to block Tianya Gumming's blow. However, being stabbed in the back by a fellow clan member, that blow had already cut off part of Suliang's vitality. At this moment, Suliang was seriously injured. Puff. A mouthful of blood spat out, and Suliang couldn't help but retreat, his face turning pale. Suliang, let's capture him without mercy. The leader of that group of traitors, Chenin, the living head of the Chen family, came to Suliang with some sarcasm in his expression. Do you think you can fight into the abyss by yourself? You think too highly of yourself. My emperor's power is unfathomable and far beyond your imagination. Do you really think you are my emperor's opponent? As soon as these words came out, Suliang understood everything instantly. All of this is a trap. Abyss kept attacking Suliang and was constantly being repelled by Suliang as a sign of weakness, making Suliang underestimate Abyss and lured him to Abyss. Subsequently, using the excuse of supporting Suliang, they went to the Abyss and killed Suliang. As for what happens next? Either to smear him or to say that Suliang died of exhaustion. After all, there is room for them to play. The only miscalculation they made might be that Suliang was just too strong. He was actually able to kill here and pose a threat to Tianyaguming. Why me? Suliang pondered for a long time before asking. Your potential is too great. You can guard the border by yourself. If you are allowed to grow, when will my emperor be able to seize the present world? Chenin said coldly, Suliang, you are very good, but for the sake of our emperor's great cause, I can only ask you to die. Oh, is that so? Suliang sneered, they have already escaped. Your plan is destined to fail. Even if I die here today, you will have no place in this world. Don't worry, they can't get out. Looking towards the direction where the previous people left, Chenin shook his head. They have long been prepared for this. Now, I am afraid that a large group of foreign tribes are chasing them. How could Suliang not understand what he meant? It seems that you have been prepared to kill me for a long time. With a sigh, Suliang sensed his current situation. Since he was seriously injured, there was no way he could break out. But even so, it will never make things easier for you. Only. Yuji, I'm sorry, I will never see you again. But even so, I will let you live in peace for the rest of your life and never suffer the disaster of the Abyss again. His expression became determined again. Suliang stood with his sword in hand, looking cool and heroic. Come on, let me see what you traitors and so-called emperors are capable of. The words fell. The people surrounding him suddenly took action, and Suliang was able to defeat many. For a moment, the sword energy was everywhere, and no one could do anything to him. However, Suliang, who was seriously injured, was no match for them. When Tianyaguming also joined the battle, Suliang's injuries became more serious, and soon he was on his deathbed. Standing proudly among everyone with his sword in hand. Suliang's eyes were calm and indifferent, feeling the flow of life force, and he knew that he could no longer hold on. That being the case, then come with me. Suliang said firmly, and a bright light suddenly burst out from his body. Immediately, as if the rules of heaven and earth were triggered, Suliang used his whole body strength to stir up the world, causing a violent explosion. In a blink, half of the foreign land was affected, and hundreds of people in the Abyss suffered numerous casualties. Except for Chenin and a few other powerful people, all the human traitors headed by Chenin also died here. Even though Tianyaguming, as an emperor, is physically intact, his soul is already incomplete and will dissipate almost in the next moment. The earth shattered, space collapsed, and countless areas were razed to the ground. This day, Suliang was betrayed by the scum of mankind and surrounded and killed. However, he was just one person, but he pulled half of the foreign land back together, causing the Abyss vitality to be severely damaged and unable to move for 100 years. Yuji sat in the yard, staring blankly at the gloomy sky. Do not know why. Today, she felt a little irritable. This irritable mood cannot be relieved no matter what. I can't find the reason, and I don't know where it comes from. It was as if something was about to happen. And just then, Yuji suddenly heard a panicked shout coming from another courtyard. Her heart tightened, and for some reason, Yuji stood up subconsciously, leaving 2 lines of clear tears. What's wrong with you? Why are you crying for no reason? It's really strange, I'm obviously not a crybaby. Her mind was filled with confusion, and she had no time to think about it. Yuji quickly came to the courtyard where the shout came from. As soon as I walked in the door, then I saw people from the 2 families gathered here, all looking sad and crying secretly. What's going on? Yuji asked with a trembling voice. She didn't know why. Although she didn't hear the answer, she had already guessed it in her heart. "Young madam, young master, he. A maid came forward, but before she could finish her words, she burst into tears. "Impossible." Yuji immediately denied it. "He is really powerful, and he agreed to spend the rest of his life with him. How could he not come back? How could something happen?" Now the news is spreading all over the world, saying that Liang betrayed mankind and took refuge in the abyss, and was killed by those who came to support with all their strength. The head of the Su family said in a deep voice, and those people suffered heavy casualties because of Liang's hard resistance. "That's nonsense." Someone retorted angrily, "Liang has been kind since he was a child and has a heart for the world. He guarded the border for 3 years and then threw himself into the abyss alone. How could he take refuge in the abyss? But the fact is that none of us have seen it, so how can we refute it?" The head of the family sighed. How could he believe this statement, but there was no evidence. "I go to the abyss," Yuji said calmly. "I will find out the truth. Then, bring him back. Whether he is dead or alive." The words fell. Without waiting for anyone to stop her, Yuji flew with her sword and flew away. Su Liang's youthful appearance is unparalleled in the world. How could Yuji be weak? All the way to the exotic passage. Now, the traces of Su Liang's previous battle are still there, but here, no one is guarding it. Most of them have been destroyed. Even hundreds of tribes from foreign lands have shrunk their strength and are unable to fight in this world anymore. And before the exotic passage, Yuji saw a seriously injured person. "Are you going to support Liang?" After Yuji saw this man's appearance clearly, her pretty face immediately turned cold and she asked in a deep voice, "Tell me, what happened? Are you, Mrs. Su?" The man was stunned for a moment, and then he couldn't help crying, "Mrs. Su, I'm sorry, General Su, I'm sorry for you." Her attitude made it difficult for Yuji to continue the cold interrogation. Then, he could only comfort him a few words softly before asking, "Tell me, what exactly happened?" "I and others planned to go to support General Su, but when we arrived in front of General Su, the traitor Chenin of the Chen family actually took action against General Su." The man gritted his teeth and told Yuji everything he saw. "I tried my best to finally get rid of the pursuit of the abyss and barely escaped. I planned to go back to support General Su, but in the end, I saw." After hesitating for a moment, the man said in a deep voice, "General Su was surrounded and killed, but before he died, he used his last strength to pull us up half the abyss. General Su has no shame in his heart, no shame in heaven and earth, but that hateful villain is still alive. He originally wanted to stop the seriously injured Chenin and others from returning, but the injuries were too serious and he was no match for him at all." "Who took action?" Yuji asked calmly, but beneath that calmness, there was hidden the terrifying anger before a volcano erupted. "My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 624. The aristocratic Chen family, the upper sect Fuiyun Taoist section. After telling Yuji all the names, the man finally said, "Mrs. Su, please give me my condolences. Please rest assured, Mrs. Su. I will definitely tell the truth to the world and restore General Su's innocence." "No need to do this, thank you for your hard work." Yuji shook her head, rejected the man's kindness, and then calmly walked into the abyss alone. "Aristocratic family, Shangzong. How dare you betray the human race and take action against my husband?" Scenes from the past appeared in Yuji's mind, making the anger and resentment in Yuji's heart deeper and deeper. "Liang did nothing wrong. It's all your fault. How can I let you go? How can I let you go?" Clenching her silver teeth tightly, at this moment, Yuji's heart was full of hatred. "Come into the abyss." Yuji's will connects the world and triggers the rules. Strong abyssal demonic energy gradually condensed on her body. Yang is kind, but I am different. As long as I can avenge Yang. Even if he becomes a demon, what can he do? Gradually. With the injection of demonic energy, Yuji's face became more and more terrifying, and her body was actually cracked every inch. Next moment, the delicate body exploded with a bang, turning into little stars and dissipating. But under the majestic concentration of demonic energy, a delicate body that is completely the same as the hundreds of abyss tribes gradually condensed. Yuji still has that stunning face. But there was endless coldness and hatred in those eyes. Today, I, Yuji, will transform into a demon and kill all the scum in the world first. Don't hesitate. After walking out of the abyss, Yuji immediately rushed towards the families and sects that took action. In just a moment, they arrived outside Chen's house. Chenin, get out of here. Yuji looked coldly at the Chen family below. As a human being, yet he took refuge in the abyss and took action against my husband. After this, you still dare to slander my husband. Today, I will kill you scum on behalf of your husband. Say it. Volume 1 Chapter 550, I am worthy of the world, but I am sorry to her alone. Yuji didn't say anything, but took action angrily. How could Chenin, who was already seriously injured, and the Chen family who suffered heavy losses be their opponents? But at this moment, wait a minute, save their lives. Someone came over and wanted to dissuade Yuji. But before he could say anything, Yuji suddenly took action and killed him directly. I only kill those scum who have taken action against my husband. I will never kill innocent people indiscriminately. Anyone who advises me will die. Yuji said coldly. This is her moment of revenge, whoever persuades him to die. Immediately. Traveling to many places, in a few days, many aristocratic families and Shangzone were slaughtered by Yuji alone. After taking revenge. However, Yuji did not return to the family, but came to the abyss. Yang, you and I made an agreement that day. If anything happens to you, I will take your place and guard this place. Looking at the scene at the edge of the abyss, Yuji murmured to herself, today, I am here to fulfill my promise. Even if there is nothing worth remembering in this world. But this is a promise with you. Even if you have left, how can I break my promise? Starting from this day, Yuji alone began to guard alone. With the love in your heart. For Suliang alone, Yuji alone guards the abyss, dominates the world as the queen of the abyss, and uses the border as a barrier to protect the peace of the world. The current lord of the abyss has never repented. The darkness gradually receded, and Suliang opened his eyes, but there was some vicissitudes and melancholy in his eyes. Is that so? Why did I, who guarded the borders of the human race in ancient times, end up in the abyss? Why was Yuji originally a human being, but now she became the queen of the abyss? Why is it that even though she has become the queen of the abyss, she is still doing everything for the sake of the world and mankind? Suliang finally understood all of this at this moment. But what followed was deep heartache. It has been guarded since ancient times until now. How long was the time in between? I can't imagine it, I really can't imagine it. Nowadays, all records of that time have been lost. Even the records have been lost, but Yuji is still persisting. Just relying on a belief and a love in her heart, she has persisted until now. How on earth did she endure this loneliness and being surrounded by enemies in the world? Just thinking about it makes people feel crazy. Suliang couldn't imagine it at all, but because he couldn't imagine it, he felt even more distressed. The feeling that no matter how hard you hold on, there is no hope, is the most despairing thing. In this world, humans have no need to be nostalgic or merciful to Yuji. Everything she did, she persisted for countless years, and she was dedicated to persevering in this world. It's all because of that commitment to him, that belief. Thinking back to his previous attitude towards Yuji, Suliang sighed again. When they first met, he was very defensive towards Yuji. It was not until he and Yuji entered the abyss that this defensiveness gradually disappeared and was replaced by endless trust. From Suliang's point of view at the time, such an attitude was of course nothing. But Su's conscience still felt a little guilty. When you see her again, will you apologize to her? Suliang didn't expect to be forgiven. Now, he just wanted Yuji to be happy. Then, the abyss became emperor and put an end to the disasters of the abyss, allowing Yuji to completely let go of her burden. However, Suliang also understood that Yuji probably never blamed anything in her heart. Standing up, Suliang looked at the place behind the bronze coffin in front of him. There was a small doll. After just a brief glance, Suliang recognized him. That was Yuji's face. It was carved here by the previously dissipated self over countless years. Walking forward slowly, Suliang picked up the doll and held it in his hand. Moment. The puppet actually shattered, revealing a light group inside, which penetrated into Suliang's body. Next moment, Suliang only felt that the countless vague memory fragments in his mind became clear at this moment. Scenes from the ancient times appeared in my mind, as if I had experienced them personally. That's right. That's what Suliang experienced personally. Even if it is myself in another life, it is still me. This moment, Suliang completely found himself in another life. At the same time, the light group instantly dissipated in Suliang's body and merged into his limbs and bones. It was an energy that was extremely majestic and as vast as the sea. It was even much stronger than Suliang's cultivation at the moment. The process of energy integrating into the limbs and bones is also the process of Suliang accepting it and turning it into his own use. However, the energy was enough to burst countless Suliang, but the integration at this moment was very gentle, and did not make Suliang feel the slightest discomfort. Just a moment. Countless scenes about cultivation emerged in Suliang's mind, and every bit of realization appeared in Suliang's mind, completely integrated into it, and his soul was intact. With the infusion of majestic energy in the light group, Suliang's cultivation level also improved rapidly, as if flying into the sky, just in the blink of an eye, the life spring, the divine bridge, the other shore. After breaking through the realm one after another, Suliang's cultivation quickly exceeded the limit of transcendence. This is a cultivation beyond this world. At this moment, Suliang probably has no one who can compare with him in the entire abyss. Even if Tian Yaguming comes back to life, he will definitely not be Suliang's opponent. The fluctuations in cultivation gradually dissipated. At this moment, Suliang's entire body seemed to be enveloped by a layer of extremely strong power. With every movement, space seemed to be torn apart and time disrupted. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 625. The improvement in strength is beyond calculation. In front of Suliang today, I'm afraid it wouldn't be difficult to erase the entire abyss, right? This is the strength that a true abyss emperor should possess. However, with such a huge improvement, Suliang didn't feel happy at all at this moment. Gaining strength and becoming the emperor of the abyss, what he does is the peace and joy of his wives. Now it's just that the goal has been achieved, so what's there to be happy about? Compared with his strength, Yuji is what Suliang cares about more. In that life, I died for Yuji and the entire world. However, I am worthy of all sentient beings in the world and worthy of the entire world, but I am the only one I am sorry for. Guarding oneself alone for endless years. Suliang is not a heartless person, how can he not be touched? It's time to go see her. Take a deep breath and restrain all your power. Suliang took one step forward and appeared directly outside the topmost bronze door as if he had traveled through space. Suliang. Qin Binjao saw Suliang at a glance, and immediately rushed forward, hugging her husband, and asked happily, "Did you succeed?" "Well, it worked. With my current strength, you are no match for me." Volume 1 Chapter 551, Suppressing the Abyss and Foreign Land, We Go Home. Suliang hugged his girlfriend with his backhand, smiled at Wan Qing and others. "Don't worry, I really succeeded." "Your cultivation?" Wan Qing asked with some surprise. She found that even at this moment, she could feel a little power and pressure when facing Suliang. Beyond this world, with such strength, it should be no problem to command the entire abyss. While explaining to the girls with a smile, Suliang clearly saw a relieved smile on Yuji's face. He gently patted his girlfriend on the shoulder. After letting Qin Binjao go, Suliang came to Yuji. Looking at Yuji's face with a full smile. After hesitating for a while, Suliang said, "Yuji, I'm sorry." "Why?" Yuji blinked her eyes, pretending to be confused, but her eyes were slightly red, and she couldn't hide the smile in her eyes. "I." Suliang opened his mouth, and for a moment, he didn't know what to say. Is it because she left her previous life and left Yuji alone for endless years? Or is it for vigilance in this life? But no matter why, Suliang only felt full of guilt and pity for Yuji in his heart. "Okay, there's no need to apologize to me." Yuji smiled. How could she not know what Suliang was thinking? Taking a step forward and hugging Suliang tightly, Yuji said softly, "I don't need sympathy. If you feel sorry for me, then use practical actions to make up for your debt to me." This is her pride. And, "Fool, why have I ever blamed you? As long as you are by my side, everything is enough. Really, I am very satisfied." On the way out of the Zhuang Palace, Yuji consciously came over and took Suliang's hand. Feeling the boneless and slightly cold feeling in his hand, Suliang smiled slightly, but had no intention of refusing. Be reasonable. For Yuji, it was really hard for Suliang to refuse. A person has guarded the abyss for countless years. The loneliness and pain involved are far beyond the limits of ordinary people. However, Yuji has persisted until now. Just as Yuji hoped, Suliang would certainly have no sympathy. This kind of feeling was also a denial of Yuji's persistence and efforts over the countless years. But Suliang is also doing what Yuji said. Use his actual actions to make up for his debt to Yuji. Seeing that Suliang did not refuse, Yuji smiled and hugged Suliang's arms. Suliang's arms were allowed to sink into the peak and abyss, unable to extricate themselves. Yuji put her head close to Suliang's ear and whispered, "I really want to do something right now. Do you agree?" "What's up?" Suliang turned around curiously and asked. Since they met in this life, this is the first time Yuji has asked Suliang to do something for her. No matter what, Suliang didn't want to refuse. "I want to eat you. Complete all the unfinished things." There was a bit of coquettishness in Yuji's voice, and her fragrant tongue licked her red lips. At this moment, she was charming and heartwarming. However, hearing this, Suliang coughed slightly in embarrassment. Next time, definitely next time. Although the relationship with Yuji has developed rapidly. But is this developing a little too fast? I still feel like I haven't gotten used to it yet. And how could Yuji not know what Suliang was thinking? With a chuckle, Yuji didn't care about Suliang's rejection. Instead, he stepped forward and continued softly, "In this case, I still want to do what I did before." Well, let's talk about it when we get back." Suliang thought for a while and didn't know whether to refuse or agree. The waiting time of the previous 10 days, the experiences of Suliang and Yuji, if you think about it carefully, what is it that is quite exciting? He had just agreed to use his actual actions to make up for Yuji, and Suliang didn't want to reject her one after another at this time. We can only discuss it later. Of course Suliang knew what Yuji was thinking. She made these requests not to embarrass Suliang, nor to make trouble unreasonably. She just wanted to be closer to Suliang, even closer. Those countless years of perseverance and faith have disappeared today, and the beloved is by my side. Such joy and joy, even for Yuji, would feel a bit unreal. Perhaps she will also worry that the current happiness is just false. At some point, the dream will be broken, and she will go back to the time when she was alone and cold guarding the abyss. At this thought, Suliang sighed for the rest of his life. Holding Yuji's waist with his backhand, Suliang stepped forward and said softly, "Don't worry, I'll be by your side and I will never leave again. And after you leave the ancestral palace, come back with us. When you return to the present world, you will no longer need to guard the abyss. Hear this." Yuji lowered her head, her eyes were slightly red, she bit her cherry lips lightly, her delicate body trembling slightly. After a while, she raised her head, her eyes twinkling like stars, and nodded heavily, "Yes, okay." The words fell. Yuji jumped directly into Suliang's arms and was hugged tightly by Suliang like a princess. She put her arms around Suliang's neck and buried her pretty face in Suliang's arms. Yuji whispered, "Hold me and let's go." "Okay, I'll carry you back." Suliang nodded gently. At the same time, the girls looked at Yuji and Suliang's intimate behavior, but rarely said a word. Although I don't know what happened between these two people. But the girls could also clearly feel their husband's guilt, and Yuji's happiness, but also a little uneasiness. Qin Benjao, Tan Kinja, Ying Chao Ji, Qin Wanyu, Mu Qingqi and Tao Yao Yao, especially Wan Cheng. They all have their own unknown stories with Suliang. Of course they know this feeling. That being the case, then leave the present time to them. Anyway, it's impossible for my husband to run away with Yuji, so what are you worried about? As for sisters plus one? We have already accepted Yuji. The group of people moved forward. This time, with the protection of Suliang's otherworldly strength, the girls didn't feel any danger at all along the way. The journey was smooth and we arrived outside the Zhuang Palace. Now, the 8 Abyss Kings had already withdrawn from the ancestral palace and were waiting for the news. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 626. They had a clear understanding of their own strength. After going a few levels deep, all their men around them were killed and injured, and they felt that they could not do anything to Suliang. Then they all withdrew and waited outside for news about Suliang and others. With the presence of those powerful people from hundreds of tribes they arranged, it would not be easy for Suliang and Yuji to obtain the Emperor's certificate. However, I have been waiting until now, but still haven't received any news. The hearts of all the kings have sunk to the bottom. Suliang died inside. No, this idea is a bit too optimistic. With Yuji by their side, how could Suliang die so easily inside? That is to say, Suliang succeeded? If this is the case, they are already considering running away. Ever since I learned that Suliang had obtained the Emperor's certificate, they blocked Suliang in various ways, and during this period, various methods were used in turn to put Suliang to death. This hatred is so great that it has reached the point where there is no way to resolve it. They asked themselves, if it were them, they would probably kill such an enemy. Let's all be prepared. If Suliang really succeeds, we have to think carefully about what we should do now. A king said in a deep voice. As soon as these words came out, the evil king retorted on the spot, "How is it possible that a mere human being can become the emperor of my abyss? Just a human? Countless years ago, a human race entered the abyss and exploded half of the abyss. How can you underestimate human beings? All the kings glanced at Tianzai King and were too lazy to pay any attention to him. And just then, squeak! The bronze door of the Zhuang Palace was opened, and the vast and ancient atmosphere came oncoming. All the kings looked together and saw several figures appearing there. Especially the figure in the middle was so powerful that it made them all tremble. Su Liang, he actually succeeded. Some people gritted their teeth and said, facing Su Liang's cultivation that was far beyond this world, they could barely even stand up. Holding Yuji in his arms, he slowly came to the front of all the kings. Su Liang glanced at them lightly and said softly, "Is there anyone else who dares to attack me?" As soon as these words came out, no one dared to speak. "In that case, please retreat. From now on, without my order, I will stay in your territory. If you dare to take action against the present world, I will definitely kill you." After some light threats, Su Liang smiled at his ladies and said, "Let's go home. The holy mountain of righteousness." Before the exotic passage, the foreign passage that had been silent for a long time suddenly started to rotate again. Immediately afterwards, several figures walked out of it. It was Su Liang and others. Finally home. Su Liang took a deep breath for a long time, and then said with some emotion, "Although the abyss is also a very complete world, it doesn't look much different from the real world. But in that atmosphere where everyone in the world is the enemy, even if Su Liang is now extremely powerful, he will inevitably feel a little uncomfortable. That feeling of being tense all the time is a bit too tiring." Now that he had finally returned to the living world, Su Liang was finally able to relax. Not only Su Liang, but also all the girls are like this. Although he is always with his husband, he must always pay attention to the hostility from the abyss and be prepared for the appearance of enemies. It's also very tiring, okay. The most exaggerated one is Yuji. After taking the same deep breath as Su Liang, Yuji seemed to have been relieved of a heavy burden, and her whole body looked relaxed and clear. "I'm finally back." A faint smile appeared on Yuji's pretty face. Even though she is the queen of the abyss, the enemies Yuji is guarding against come from the abyss. During these countless years of perseverance, she has been vigilant, prepared, and calculating. "I have never been so completely relaxed as I am now." Abyss. Never go to that kind of place again. So what if she is the queen of the abyss? Yuji had already put down everything there, and even followed Su Liang to the real world without taking anything. Now, finally I can stay with him and never be separated again. That's when Tao Yao's puzzled voice came from Su Liang's side. "Brother Su Liang, I still don't understand, why don't we kill all those kings of the abyss and all those foreign tribes?" Obviously relying on the current strength of Brother Su Liang, he can easily do this. But Brother Su Liang had no idea of doing it. It's really strange. After all, we can't destroy the entire abyss. Su Liang held Tao Yao in front of him and touched her hair randomly. "Even if we kill those masters, unless the rules of the abyss are fundamentally changed, more masters will definitely appear in the future. At that time, another war will begin. So, it's better to maintain the status quo. It will be easier to manage." "What about those abyss kings?" Tao Yao still didn't quite understand. "They have been plotting against Brother Su Liang. Why doesn't Brother Su Liang take action against them? The existing abyss system is mature and stable enough. Although the few abyss kings are a little weak, they can still guard the abyss without any problem." Su Liang explained with a smile, "With them here, they can help us guard the stability of the abyss, but if we kill them, the abyss will still experience chaos in order to give birth to a new king. When the chaos in the abyss ends, we still need to go to the abyss. It's really a bit troublesome." "Is that so?" Tao Yao nodded thoughtfully, feeling like she had learned something. Seeing Tao Yaoyao's cute appearance, all the girls laughed. Although she is called a witch, this girl Tao Yaoyao is really too innocent. Suliang's plan failed from the beginning, and later he was beaten by Qin Binjiao and bullied by Mu Qingqian. She obviously has some thoughts of a witch, but she cannot use the methods of a witch at all. These simple calculations of cascading are a bit too advanced for her. I don't know if the girl next door attitude she showed in front of Suliang was just an act. That's when two beautiful figures suddenly fell from the sky and appeared in front of everyone. It was 11 Hang and Ji Hongchen. While the other girls went deep into the abyss, the two girls stayed in this world. Of course, these two people want to follow the girls to the abyss to help Suliang. When it comes to their affection for Suliang, they can't lose to anyone. However, the two of them, a holy master of the righteous way and an emperor of the demonic way, really couldn't leave this world easily. Now that the good and the evil are united to fight against the abyss, this force is really too strong. In the past, Suliang could still be mobilized, but after Suliang left, only the two of them could suppress the good and the evil. If the two of them leave again, if any problems arise, there may be no way to solve them. By the time the problem of the abyss has been solved, but the good and the evil are fighting together. What is going on? The two women stood in front of everyone, hesitated for a moment, and then finally said in unison, "You." As soon as the words came out, the two women realized something was wrong, glared at each other, and said in unison. Volume 1 Chapter 552 The new year is approaching, so naturally it will be lively. Why do you imitate me? It's so disgusting. He obviously waited a while before speaking out in order to avoid her, but he didn't expect that he still bumped into her. Seeing the two women's appearance, Suliang and others couldn't help laughing again. A holy master of the righteous way and a noble emperor of the evil way are obviously two enemies of life and death, and they are irreconcilable. But there is such a tacit understanding at this moment. This feeling is really a bit too subtle. Humph, you are indeed worthy of being the Demon King. He doesn't do any good things at all. 11 Hang snorted and said very dissatisfied, "Isn't it what a gentleman does to steal someone else's money? I am the demonic emperor, not a gentleman." Ji Hongchen smiled sweetly, not wanting to be outdone at all. "Besides, no matter how bad I am, I'm still much better than you righteous hypocrites." On the surface, he appears to be benevolent and moral, but the things he does are even more egregious than those of our demons. For example, you, the righteous holy master, are very skilled at robbing others. Hear this. 11 Hang's pretty face sank, and she wanted to talk back. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womeng. Chapter 627. See this. Suliang hurriedly stepped forward and stood in front of the two of them. Okay, stop arguing, today is a happy day. See this. Snort. 11 Hang snorted softly, "If it weren't for him, I would never end it with you today." Each other. Ji Hongchen rolled his eyes cutely and was too lazy to pay attention to 11 Hang. Suliang shook his head helplessly and smiled, then took the two of them's arms and walked towards his house. "Okay, let's stop talking. Let's go home. Go home." 11 Hang and Ji Hongchen were stunned for a moment, then their eyes lit up. "Did you succeed?" "Well, it worked." Suliang smiled and nodded. "At least, you don't have to worry about the abyss for the time being." "Did you make it? But has the countless years of war in the abyss finally come to an end?" 11 Hang and Ji Hongchen followed Suliang blankly, feeling a little complicated for a moment. Walking in the city on the holy mountain. Suliang looked at the joy and excitement around him and asked a little confused, "Has anything good happened recently? Why does the city feel so lively?" "The new year is approaching, so of course it's going to be lively," 11 Hang said with a chuckle. walking on the streets of the holy mountain city. Even though most of the people in this city are cultivators of immortality, the new year is approaching and the flavor of the new year is still very strong. The streets and alleys are decorated with bright red lanterns and decorations. Many stores have also withdrawn from year-end promotions. And on the stalls of those street vendors, there are all kinds of things that will be used during the new year. The new year is approaching, and we really need to have some fun and relax. Suliang looked at the scene and said seriously. If you think about it carefully, a lot of things have happened in this year. From a young man who started practicing again, to a master whose cultivation is beyond this world. There are some difficulties along the way, but most of the time, because of the company of my wives, I feel very warm and happy. It feels like a world away, it really feels like a world away. After we go back, why not arrange it properly? Qin Benjao said very excitedly, celebrating the new year with her husband. She felt so happy just thinking about it. Although there were Chinese New Year celebrations in the past, it always ended with Master and me eating some dumplings. The rest of the time, I have been practicing, and there is no difference at all from usual times. My master's craftsmanship is indeed very good, but it inevitably lacks some New Year's feeling. And this year, finally, we can have a real New Year. Well, we can go buy some stuff and decorate it later. Yuji also said excitedly. She hadn't felt the feeling of celebrating the New Year in an unknown amount of time. When was the last time? Yes. Or before marrying him. At that time, although there was some instability due to the invasion of hundreds of foreign tribes, with him around, everything was happy and warm. After that, in the abyss, where can such a thing as the New Year exist? Even if there were enemies all around, and there was no place for him. What's the point of living this New Year? It just adds to the sadness. Don't worry, let's go back and take a rest, dress up or something, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Suliang smiled at the girls and said, the new year is approaching, but there is still some time left, enough for us to prepare. Good. The girls responded in unison, but looking at the anticipation in their eyes, they were obviously impatient for this matter. See this. Suliang shook his head helplessly. My ladies are really full of energy. After staying in the abyss for such a long time and fighting one after another, don't they feel tired? Even if Suliang made a breakthrough in cultivation and performed another simulation, he still felt a little tired. Let's take a good rest when we come back this time. Let's spend a complete new year with my ladies. At home. Squeak. The door was pushed open, and what greeted him was a burst of dust. Bah, bah, bah. Qin Benjao, who was walking in the front, was slapped in the face and said with some dissatisfaction, it's just a few days away from home, why is it like this? Speaking of which, He Ying and Hong Chen, aren't you two always in this world? Suliang glanced at his home, and then looked at 11 Hang and Ji Hong Chen behind him. Why, don't you two live at home? You have all gone to the abyss. How can we relax? Ji Hong Chen said confidently, of course we have been waiting outside the foreign land passage, waiting for you to come back. Well, in the past few days, we have never left the demon-suppressing dragon vein. 11 Hang also nodded and agreed with Ji Hong Chen's statement. If that's the case, thank you very much for your hard work. Suliang said with some emotion, but in this case, we have to take care of this home. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have a good rest when the dust is flying. To this, of course, the girls had no objection. Although they are either the masters of a sect, or even the masters of good and evil, and the masters of the abyss. Or, they are the proud daughters of various sects. Such tedious things have basically never been done. But things are different now. When you are with your husband, no matter what you do, you will be happy. Even doing these trivial things is fun. He took the girls into his home. Suliang found some tools and filled several basins of water. After packing up all the clothes, Suliang said to the girls, "Okay, let's start working. The earlier you finish, the earlier you can rest." "Don't worry, Suliang, we will be fine." Qin Benjao raised her hands and said, "If you finish it early, you can take your husband back to the room early." Chapter 554 Chapter 553 Did we come at the wrong time? Just thinking about it makes me feel full of motivation. Then, under the command of Suliang, the girls were scattered throughout the house and began to take action. However, soon, Yuji came to Suliang's side. "Liang, I don't know what to do." Yuji looked at Suliang pitifully. After all, she is the queen. Such things are usually done by maids. There is absolutely no chance to do it yourself. However, Suliang didn't believe what she said. Obviously, before becoming the queen of the abyss, as a lady, you were very proficient in these things. How could it not happen now? But Suliang did not intend to expose Yuji. How could he not know what Yuji was thinking? With a smile, Suliang came to Yuji. "If you don't know how, I can teach you. What do you want to learn?" After thinking about it, Yuji said with great anticipation, "Do the laundry." "Do the laundry?" Suliang was stunned. Why did he feel that this was completely different from what he imagined? Aren't they things that can be taught step by step? What happened to the laundry? "Of course, you can also wash the sheets," Yuji said seriously, slowly approaching Suliang step by step. "My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator." Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 628. Immediately, everyone came to Suliang and clung to Suliang's body. Caressing Suliang's cheek, the other hand went all the way down. She has silky eyes, spring-like brows, and an extremely soft smile on her lips. Yuji's voice is soft and charming. "Why don't you teach me how to wash the sheets? About this, I'm also curious about whether I can do it." "Good guy. Are you serious about washing bed sheets? I always feel that it is a unique washing method, and the water used is beyond my knowledge. Why not do it a little later?" Suliang suggested, but did not leave Yuji. "The room is not too clean now, is it inconvenient?" "It doesn't matter." Yuji shook her head, waved her jade hand lightly, and in an instant, a powerful force burst out. Moment. All the dust in the room was picked up and thrown outside. Is this the power of cultivating immortality? Can you actually do such a thing? Learned. But, isn't it a waste to do this? Suliang was shocked. But at this moment, Tao Yao's excited voice came from outside. "Brother Suliang, come and see, it's snowing." Boom. The door was suddenly opened, and Tao Yao rushed in. When she saw everything in the room, she was stunned. "Shouldn't I be there?" He looked at Suliang, who looked confused. Then he looked at Tao Yao, who was even more confused. Yuji chuckled and whispered into Suliang's ear. "Forget it, we still have a lot of time, not less than this moment. Besides, it's not good to teach children bad things." After hearing this, Suliang fell into silence. For Yuji, even 11 Hang and Ji Hongchen are children, right? But how should she explain to her that Tao Yao, whom she regarded as a child, was actually much ahead of her? "After all, I have experienced it before and after, left and right, up and down, inside and out. Even if they are with Mu Qingqian every time, it is a bit difficult for two people to deal with Suliang alone." Seeing Suliang's thoughtful look, Yuji chuckled, came to Tao Yao, took Tao Yao's hand. "Let's go see the snow. She has been waiting for eternity." Now, with him by her side, Yuji already feels very happy. As for the rest, There is no need to rush this moment, there will be opportunities sooner or later. Earlier or later, what's the difference? As long as it's him. Follow Tao Yao Yao to the outside of the room. The two of them raised their heads and looked towards the sky, and immediately, smiles appeared on their faces. It's really snowing. Reaching out to catch some snow, feeling the cold feeling of melting in her hands, the smile on Yuji's face was sincere and happy. It's really been a long time since I saw snow. In the endless time in the abyss, Yuji had certainly seen the scene of falling snow. However, how could she be even remotely interested in this at that time? All he could think about was how to better guard the abyss for him. Turn your head. Waving to Suliang, who was still in the room, Yuji smiled and said, "Come on, come out and play in the snow." "Good." Suliang nodded, walked slowly to Yuji's side, raised his head, and looked at the snow falling in the sky. It's approaching the end of the year, and in the dead of winter, the snow is not that small. But, after all, it has just snowed, and it will take a long time for the snow to cover the ground. So, in fact, now, there is nothing fun at all. But so what? As long as Yuji is happy, no matter what time it is the best time. Since she likes it, then just stay with her. At this moment, Yuji on the side has already opened her mouth towards the sky. Ah, ouch. After a moment, Yuji smacked her lips and said with some distress, "It doesn't taste good. You obviously look more mature than anyone else, why are you acting like a child now?" Suliang gently patted Yuji's little head. "Of course snow has no taste. If you want to eat ice, I'll just make you some." Okay, but I don't want it now." Yuji held Suliang's arm and leaned on Suliang's shoulder, smiling. "People are just curious about the taste. I haven't had it like this for many years. Although it's boring, I miss it very much. Hear this." Suliang's heart softened again. For Yuji, who is deep in the abyss, simply admiring and playing in the snow has become a luxury. Sigh softly. Suliang thought for a while, and suddenly his eyes flashed. "Why don't we have hot pot tonight?" "Hot pot?" "Yes, how about eating hot pot in the snow? It should be pretty good, right? Eating hot pot in the snow? Think about that scene for a moment." There was a hint of expectation in Yuji's heart. "Yeah, okay, just wait, I'll take them to buy ingredients." "Say it." Yuji couldn't hold it any longer, so she couldn't wait to break away from Suliang and ran towards someone else's yard. "We haven't finished cleaning up the house yet, so we're not in a hurry, right?" Suliang said helplessly, but he also understood Yuji very well. The family is eating hot pot together in the snow. Such a warm scene makes people feel warm and lively just thinking about it. This kind of warmth and excitement is something Yuji has never experienced in countless years. Asking himself, if it were him, Suliang felt that he might be more anxious than Yuji. As for Suliang, Yuji waved her hand. Immediately, a powerful momentum exploded instantly, sweeping up the dust in the entire yard and throwing it away together. This time, the efficiency was extremely high, and everyone's work was completed in an instant. "See this?" Suliang was helpless. "So, you really have the ability to solve work in one go? That being the case, then when you followed us to clean things up in full swing just now, you actually wanted to get everyone away and leave some time for yourself, right? If you want to do this, you can just say it, why go to all this trouble? Can I still refuse you?" He smiled and shook his head. Suliang walked straight into the kitchen and started busy. Although the dust in the entire house has been cleaned, but these kitchen utensils and other things still need to be taken care of. Otherwise, Suliang would not trust his ladies to use it. Not to mention, since you want to eat hot pot, of course you have to prepare it in advance. Soon. At the beginning of the lanterns, a silver moon hung in the sky. In the mansion. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 629. Suliang and others sat around a table. On the table is a steaming charcoal-fired copper pot. In such snowy weather, only this kind of thing can make people feel warm and warm. Okay, you can put the meat in. Chin Benjao kept staring at the water in the hot pot. Seeing that it was boiling, she couldn't wait to put the meat down. Don't grab it from me, I cooked this for Sulang. Chin Benjao said righteously while staring at her own flesh. However, the meat had just been cooked, and in the blink of an eye, it had disappeared without a trace. Hey, that's enough for you, I've prepared this for Sulang. Chin Benjao was unhappy and stared at everyone on the table. Seeing everyone puffing out their cheeks while chewing, she was almost pissed to death. Woo, it was obviously intended to be fed to Sulang, why did each of you start to grab it? If that's the case, don't blame me. Then. Soon, a fighting broke out on the table. The heat is rising and the snow is flying. The surroundings were already covered in snow, but in the courtyard, it was warm and lively. Such an atmosphere made Suliang feel a little tipsy, even if he didn't drink at all. And just then, under the table, Yuji's little feet wrapped in black silk nimbly passed through the crowd and came to Suliang. Going all the way up, soon, I found the destination I wanted accurately. Hiss. Suliang immediately took a breath of air and looked at Yuji helplessly. Everyone is here, if they see it, there will be no way to end it. However, Yuji doesn't care about that much. On the surface, she is calm and composed, but in private, Yuji is very flexible. Not long after, Suliang lay on the table helplessly for a while, feeling completely spoiled. And the other side. However, Yuji closed her hands with satisfaction, slathered on the ice cream, and put on her shoes with the heartfelt message from her beloved. After dinner, the girls and Suliang sat together in the yard, watching the snowflakes flying in the sky, talking happily. Of course they have seen snow before, but this is the first time to see snow with their husband, okay. As long as there is a loved one by your side, no matter how cliched it is, this moment will feel extremely novel. However, looking at the discussion of the girls, Suliang looked calm and indifferent, saying nothing, and had fallen into the sage mode. No more, really no more. There was no way, Yuji was just too powerful. It was an unconventional method, but it made Yuji achieve even more powerful effects. All I can say is that she is indeed the succubus queen who treats Tao Yao Yao like a child. Even if they have never communicated in depth, in some aspects, they are already far beyond her and better than everyone else. Suliang just wants to have a good rest now and doesn't want to cause any more trouble. He was also very tired from the successive battles. But just when the girls' chat was coming to an end, Wanqing suddenly suggested, "Why don't we go to the hot springs together? It just so happens that the hot spring at home is right outside. At times like this, bathing in the hot spring is also a kind of enjoyment." After hearing this, the eyes of the girls immediately shone with light. Okay, let's soak in the hot spring. Chin Benjao immediately agreed. She soaked in a hot spring on a snowy day. Although it was still the same hot spring, the mood was completely different. As for the cold weather, will you catch a cold? Don't be kidding, their cultivation levels are already at the top of the world. Even Tao Yao Yao Mu Ching Qian is in the realm of immortality far beyond her peers. How could one get sick with such a level of cultivation? Do you really think that your cultivation is a joke? With Qin Benjao taking the lead, all the girls agreed, with expectations in their eyes. Soaking in hot springs on a snowy day is so great, isn't it? Seeing the excited expressions of the girls, Suliang felt a little bit bad for some reason. Really? Next moment, all the girls' eyes were on Suliang. Even 11 He Ying, Ji Hongchen, Jing Meng, and even Yu Ji all had inexplicable smiles on their faces. My dear disciple, what do you think of this proposal? Wan Qing asked softly with a very kind smile on her face. I think, I'd better rest first. Halfway through the sentence, seeing that the faces of his ladies all turned dangerous, the desire to survive immediately made Suliang change his words and said righteously. I think it's fine, and it's appropriate, as long as the ladies are happy. It's over, it's all over. I'm afraid there won't be any time to rest tonight. Can I still walk out of the hot spring alive? However, if he didn't agree, Suliang felt that his final result would be that he would be forced to go forward by his wives. At that time, his death will be even worse. After weighing it, Suliang decided to choose a more honorable way to die for himself. Since my good disciples have agreed, let's go make preparations. Wan Qing stood up with the girls and went back to their rooms, planning to make some preparations. However, before separation, Wan Qing said to Suliang meaningfully, my dear disciple, our hot spring is divided into two parts. You must not go wrong. After hearing this, Suliang fell into deep thought. Is it too late to pack up and run away now? In the hot spring, Suliang was immersed in it and let out a sigh of relief. Really? After a series of battles, soaking in a hot spring can completely wash away the fatigue. Although after becoming strong in cultivation, it has become round and untainted, unstained by dust. But taking a bath and having a meal have become instinctive and become the purest enjoyment. Reach out your hand and catch the snowflakes falling from the sky. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Suliang's mouth. Really? Chapter 555 Chapter 554 Do you want the Master's Majesty? Taking a hot spring bath in this weather is perfect. It would be better if his ladies didn't come to him. However, next moment, Suliang, I'm here, catch me. The words fell. A flash of silver flashed, and then, a beautiful shadow fell from the sky and landed directly in Suliang's arms. Suliang subconsciously caught it, and when he put it in his arms, it felt soft, smooth, and fragrant, making people not want to put it down. Without looking, Suliang recognized the identity of the beauty in his arms. Benjao, why are you here? Hey, I came here secretly. Qin Benjao smiled, hugged her husband, and snuggled into Suliang's arms. Although Sister Wan Qing said not to disturb Suliang, she just couldn't help it. It would be too boring if I couldn't soak in a hot spring in the snow with Suliang, right? After hearing this, Suliang was so moved that he almost cried. Didn't you expect that your master would be so considerate? You are indeed your master. Master, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you earlier. And just when Suliang was secretly moved, Qin Benjao, who was curled up in his arms, leaned her whole body against Suliang. Lift up those slender white legs. The jade feet were petite, delicate, and cute, but they always stepped on Suliang. What are you doing? Suliang subconsciously hugged his girlfriend and asked in confusion. When we were eating hot pot, everyone saw what Sister Yuji did. My villain wants to clear his name, but he awakens Cao Thief Simulator. Author, Fangzone Womang. Chapter 630. Qin Benjao pouted, looking very unconvinced. I am the one who has been with Suliang for the longest time. How can I lose to Sister Yuji in this aspect? There's no need to compare with this, right? Suliang was completely confused. Isn't it a bit strange that his girlfriend's direction of advancement is a bit strange? And just then, Tan Kinja's voice sounded behind the two of them. Humph, Yao you are indeed here. Tan Kinja crossed her arms. My teacher told me why I couldn't find you, but you did come to Aoyang. Hearing this, Qin Benjao's delicate body trembled, and she immediately shrank into her husband's arms, trembling. But then, Qin Benjao reacted and revealed her little head. That's not right. Master, why are you talking about me? Aren't you here too? As soon as these words came out, Tan Kinja was immediately speechless. Yes, even she came here secretly. But, can this be admitted? Of course not. Do you still want the majesty of Master? Although it's long gone. However, before Tan Kinja could refute anything, a voice that scared her to the core suddenly appeared. Oh, my niece is not good again. She came here secretly. How can I do it without calling her aunt? Tan Kinja turned her head stiffly. I saw. Wan Qing, Ying Kaoch, Qin Wanyu, Tao Yao Yao and Mu Qing Qian stood behind her together, looking at her with narrowed eyes and a dangerous smile on her lips. See this. Suliang's vision went dark and he almost fainted. Sure enough, all Master's thoughtfulness is fake. Didn't he survive tonight after all? After a long time. In the other room are 11 He Ying, Ji Hongchen, Jing Meng, and Yu Ji. Listening to the sound of water splashing from the other side of the wall, they all shook their heads helplessly. Immediately, they dispersed to rest. If you keep listening to it, you can't help but join in. Early the next morning, Suliang walked out of the room, looking at the world that had been wrapped in silver, with a faint smile on his lips. It snowed heavily all night, and now, we have some snowy atmosphere. But, glancing at the still quiet room behind him, Suliang sighed again. What happened last night was really unforgettable. After playing in the hot spring very late, Suliang and others calmed down. When Suliang recovered a little, Qin Benjao and others were already asleep. Without any choice, Suliang could only carry them back to the room one by one to rest. Otherwise, even if you have advanced cultivation, you will be unhappy if you soak in the hot spring for too long. Closing the door softly, Suliang walked into the kitchen and started busy with the girls' breakfast. Although it is a bit too late to have breakfast until almost noon, 3 meals a day are always indispensable. And when Suliang prepared breakfast and brought it out, the girls finally woke up. Walking out of the room, Tao Yao Yao was the first to bear the brunt and rushed straight to Suliang sitting at the table. Brother Suliang, what delicious food have you cooked? Although I had a lot of fun last night, it took a lot of physical energy, okay. Very hungry. Behind Tao Yao Yao, the girls came out one after another, with satisfied smiles on their faces. It's really nice to let go of everything with my husband after a long absence. Hurry up and have breakfast. After breakfast, we should go shopping to prepare for the new year. Suliang laid out breakfast for his ladies and said with a smile. On the side, Yuji, who had been sitting here for a long time, looked at Suliang with a resentful look, and then said. This is our first new year together, so we have to prepare well. There's no need to worry, right? Tan Kinja looked at the thick snow in the yard. It's finally snowing. If I don't make a snowman, I always feel like something is missing. But as soon as the words came out of her mouth, Tan Kinja shut her mouth. Building a snowman or something is always painful. I still remember when I was a kid, when it snowed, my aunt would take her to build a snowman. The results of it? On the contrary, I was the snowman who was made and sealed by my aunt with thick snow. I just wanted to cry. And since then, Tan Kinja has been sick for many days before she recovered. It can be said to be extremely miserable and a nightmare of a lifetime. She now regrets making this suggestion. I just hope my aunt doesn't think of what happened when she was a child. However, Tan Kinja's worries finally became a reality. Just as Tan Kinja finished speaking, she felt her aunt's eyes on her. This moment, Tan Kinja's breath froze. "Auntie, don't you still want to make a snowman by yourself? Although my cultivation level is very high now, I am not afraid of getting sick at all. But it's very embarrassing to be bullied by my aunt in front of a Liang, right? But the good thing is..." After looking at Tan Kinja, Wan Qing shook her head and murmured to herself. "Kinja will no longer be suitable when she grows up. It's such a pity. It's not suitable to be a snowman or something, it's really great, isn't it?" Tan Kinja let out a long breath and finally survived. The communication between the two was so obscure that it didn't attract anyone's attention at all. The other side. Listening to Tan Kinja's words, Qin Binjao was the first to respond. Okay, let's build a snowman. Make a snowman or something with your husband." Chapter 556 Chapter 555 Plastic Bestie Love, secretly eating Tan Kinja in front of her face. "Just thinking about it makes me happy. Except for building a snowman with Sister Ying when I was a kid, I never played with it again." Okay. Master didn't know what was going on. Every time he talked about building a snowman, his face looked ugly, as if something had happened in the past that he couldn't bear to look back on. Totally no fun. It's also a good choice. Yuji also nodded in agreement. There is still some time before the new year, so we don't need to worry about anything. I still have a lot of free time, so it's not impossible to build a snowman or something. Seeing that his ladies all agreed, Suliang naturally would not refuse. Then, nodding, Suliang put away the dishes and said, "You go and play first. I'll pack up everything and then go find you." Then Suliang, "Please hurry up." Qin Binjao said to Suliang, picked up her master and walked towards the yard. "Let's go, master, let's go play." "You girl, you are already so old, why are you still acting like a child?" Tan Kinja smiled helplessly, but also followed Qin Binjao. At this moment, she had a bold idea in her mind. How could he be the only one to enjoy what his aunt had done to him? Of course, my apprentice will also be with me. After all, he is his own apprentice. The relationship between master and apprentice is deep, Binjao, so don't blame him for his master. Then, after everyone arrived, no one had started to take action. Tan Kinja suddenly took action, and with a wave of her jade hand, a burst of energy appeared, raising up the white snow in the sky, and fell on Qin Binjao. Moment. Under Tan Kinja's exquisite control, Qin Binjao's whole body was wrapped in white snow, like a large snowman, delicate and cute. "Master, you have gone too far." Qin Binjao pouted and struggled dissatisfiedly, but being controlled by her master's true energy, how could she possibly move?